Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam's first canto, chapter 1, questions by the sages, text number 11. Burini burik karmani shutavyani vibhagashaha athak sadhutrayat saram samudritya manishaya ruhi bhadraya bhutanam yenatma suprasidati. Translation. There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties which can be learned only after many years of study. Therefore, O sage, please select the essential teachings of all these scriptures and explain them for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be satisfied. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhaicharan Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Atma, or self, is distinguished from matter and material elements. It is spiritual in constitution, and thus it is never satisfied by any amount of material planning. All scriptures and spiritual instructions are meant for the satisfaction of this self or Atma. There are many varieties of approaches which are recommended for different types of living beings in different times and at different places. Consequently, the numbers of revealed scriptures are innumerable. There are different methods and prescribed duties recommended in these various scriptures. Taking into consideration the fallen condition of the people in general in this age of Kali, the sages of Naimisharanya suggested that Sri Sutta Goswami relate the essence of all such scriptures, because in this age it is not possible for the fallen souls to understand and undergo all the lessons of all these various scriptures in a Varna and Ashram system. The Varna and Ashram society was considered to be the best institution for lifting the human being to the spiritual platform. But due to Kali Yuga, it is not possible to execute the rules and regulations of these institutions. Nor is it possible for the people in general to completely sever relations with their families as the Varnashram institution prescribes. The whole atmosphere is so charged with opposition, and considering this, one can see that spiritual emancipation for the common man in this age is very difficult. The reason for the sage's inquiry into this matter is explained in the following verse. Burini buri karmani shrutavyani vibhagashaha atak sadhutrayat sarang samudritya manishaya ruhi bhadraya bhutanam yenatma suprasidati. There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties which can be learned only after many years of study. Therefore, O sage, please select the essential teachings of all these scriptures and explain them for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be satisfied. Om Ajnana Timiranda Shagyanandjana Shalaka Yachakshur Unmilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahuditao Gaudadaya Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonado. So, in the revealed scriptures in the Vedas, there are innumerable different shastras, different books in that vast body of knowledge called the Vedas. You know, Vedas means knowledge in Sanskrit. In generally, we are almost entirely occupied with the Bhakti Shastras, with the actually the essence of the Vedas, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. Vedaista sarvai aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas I am to be known. So many scriptures are there, and the essence of them and the goal of them is to become reinstated. The jiva becomes reinstated in his original position. Jivera sarupahoy krishnera nityadas. So the ontological nature of the living entity is that he is a servant, an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. So the ultimate goal of the Shastras is to bring the jiva, the infinitesimal living entity, to that position. That's a goal. But also, as explained in the third verse of the Bhagavatam, Nikama Kalpatarur, that the Vedas are like Kalpataru, they are wish fulfilling, they are like a desire tree, they can fulfill the desires of all living entities, no matter who those living entities are. And we know the Jiva Bhada, the conditioned living entity, the living entity in this material world, is filled with so many unlimited desires for enjoyment in so many varieties. Some have one variety of enjoyment they prefer, and another living entity has another enjoyment, and different species. Like there's enjoyment for the dogs, and there's enjoyment for, you know, the giraffes and the human beings are all different kinds of levels of consciousness, and they enjoy different kinds of enjoyment. Some people, they are very basic enjoyment. They just want to, you know, enjoy the tongue and the different urges of the body, and some who are more elevated in consciousness, they have a more refined form of enjoyment. They enjoy different kinds of finer art, finer levels of culture, very fine ballet and classical music or nice ragas or whatever, and others, they just want the electrical guitar to pump out there and listen to some heavy rock or some whatever boogie woogie, or, you know, it's all different flavors of the material energy. So the conditioned living entities are filled with material desires, and the Vedas, they have something for everyone. So in general, we think of the Vedas because we are dealing with the Vedanta. The Bhagavatam is a natural commentary to the Vedanta, and Vedanta means, anta means end, the end or the conclusion of all the Vedas. That's given, Vedanta Sutra is a book, and its sutras, it's very concise verses packed with knowledge. And the natural commentary on that Vedanta Sutra, because the Vedanta Sutra is very hard to understand for most people. Only very, very spiritually awake and intelligent people can understand the Vedanta Sutras. So there is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and the natural commentary is right here, called the Srimad Bhagavatam, given by Srila Vyasadeva. So we are mainly dealing with the conclusion of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavatam and other Bhakti Shastras. But the Vedas are actually, the vast majority of the Vedas are dealing with something in this material world. We know from the Gita Shlok, Trigunya Vishaya Vida, that the Vedas are mainly dealing with the three gunas, the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. They are all material modes, they're energies of this material world, not of the spiritual world. So they're mainly dealing with that. And of course Krishna tells Arjuna, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, rise yourself above these modes of nature and come to the spiritual platform. So that's the goal of everything. But for most living entities in this world, they cannot come to this, those in the human form, because of course the animals, they have a lower consciousness and they can only follow their nature. A tiger can only act like a tiger, and a dog only like a dog. Dog can never act like a cat, it's not possible. So all the animals, they are forced to act according to the modes of nature. They're very strongly bound by them. But the human being has got a higher consciousness, and thus he's got the choice how he wants to conduct his life. Whether he's just going to live basically like the animals, following the 4 basic principles of material life: eating, sleeping, mating and defending. That's what all the animals are doing. But the human being has a possibility to put inquiries into the goal of life. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, also the first verse in the Vedanta Sutra. Now, meaning now you have attained the human form of life, you have to put inquiries into Brahma Gyan, into the purpose of life. What is the self? What is the purpose of life? So that's reserved for the human beings. And the higher living entities also, the devas, they also have that opportunity, but in general they are simply occupied with enjoying heavenly pleasures, so it's difficult for them to go further and obtain the highest platform, because, well, the reason why someone is in Svargaloka, the heavenly planets, is to enjoy. So the Vedas have so many scriptures, and the main part are actually dealing with material existence, the Karma Kanda section. There's 3 categories of the Vedas: the Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda and Upasana Kanda. And the Karma Kanda is basically dealing with karma, meaning material actions, and how to elevate oneself from different platforms and go higher, so one can ultimately attain the purpose of human life. But it's a gradual process, also like Prabhupada's explaining here, the perfect social system in the purport, the Varnashram system, where one, simply by following the prescribed duties of his what is it called? Social physical nature. Simply by following that, whatever the nature is got by his birth, whether it's as an intellectual, a administrator, or a mercantile, or a laborer. Simply by following the prescribed duties of his particular varna, his particular social class, he will gradually elevate, simply by following that. So, so the purpose of the Vedas is to gradually elevate the spirit soul to the highest platform. And most are not able to take to the highest platform immediately. We are here in this material world, the jiva, because we are filled with material desires. We want to enjoy the material energy, separate from the Supreme Lord. That's why this material existence is here. So the living entity can fulfill the desires for material enjoyment. That's, enjoying sense gratification in different gross or subtle ways. So the Vedas have so many scriptures in order to fulfill different particular desires of different conditioned living entities. So we know that in the Vedas, different methods offered for attaining different material goals are explained. Like if a living entity wants to attain great physical strength, some are completely obsessed with physical strength. We know all these bodybuilders and a lot of martial art fighters, whatever, they are obsessed with strength. They just want to be, the hero, the guy who can do everything, punch everyone else down and knock them out in the ring, or be the new superhero, the next Bruce Lee, who can just do all kinds of incredible things with his body, with the strength. So they may attain so much strength by worshipping Surya Deva, the sun god. Another who wants to attain a great learning, they can worship Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. We know the example from Chaitanya Charitamrita of Keshava Kashmiri, the great Pandit from the Kashmir, the northern part of India. He was worshipping Mother Saraswati very intently, and he got so much learning. He was called Digvijay. He went around, toured India, and conquered all the other Pandits, all the other learned persons. So he felt great pride, I'm so learned. Again, this I'm the best within my particular field. And you can worship others. You worship Lord Shiva for getting a very beautiful wife, material wealth. Worship Lord Ganesh to remove all obstacles on the path of attaining material happiness. Worship the material energy in the form of Mother Durga, also for removing obstacles and attaining so many material goals, like we know even from the Krishna book, Krishna's time. The gopis, the most elevated of all living entities, they were worshipping Mother Durga, Katyayani, which is a form of Mother Durga. She's got many different forms. And they worship, they engaged for a whole month, in the winter month. They engaged in a particular kind of tapasya, austerity. They ate only khichdi without any spices. Havish, is it called havish, I think? Just dal and rice cooked with water and no spices, nothing. It's just not very palatable at all. It's very healthy, but not very palatable. And then they worshipped Mother Katyayani for that whole month. They went to the temple and they were worshipping, please, my dear goddess, please grant us the son of Nanda as our husband. So you can worship Mother Durga for gaining a very good husband. So all these different kinds of worship are there in the scriptures in order to obtain a particular material goal. So actually today is Katyayani Rata, the end of Katyayani Rata. So there's a period, I don't know how long it is, and where you can worship that form of, it's actually a form of Parvati. Parvati is a form of Durga Devi. She's got 9 different forms, I think, and one of them is Katyayani. By worshiping that particular form of Durga Devi, you can obtain that, the perfect husband. So, all that amazing knowledge is there in the scriptures. So that Rata means vow. You make a vow for a whole month or whatever to do that particular tapasya and offer all the prayers to Katyayani. So the unmarried girls in India, they are following this Katyayani Rata. So all this amazing knowledge is there in the Vedas, by which one can obtain happiness in material life and gradually elevate oneself towards the goal of the Shastras, which is a spiritual goal. As Prabhupada explains very wonderfully here in the beginning of the purport, Atma or self is distinguished from matter and material elements. It is spiritual in constitution, and thus it is never satisfied by any amount of material planning. So you got all these material goals in the Vedas, but that's not the actual purpose of the Vedas. It's there and it's following a great part of the Vedas, but actually the goal is something different. But it's there because the living entity is generally not very intelligent. We are here to enjoy our material senses separately from Krishna, also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Kshine Punya Marja Lukam Vishanti. So Kshine, the living entities who worship the devas, the demigods, to obtain different material goals, Kshine, they fall down again from their position in the heavenly planets. So we can go to the Svarga Loka, the heavenly planets, by following the Karma Kanda section, by following different, doing a lot of punya, a lot of pious activities according to the scriptures. And then we can go to these heavenly planets, these higher planets, where you simply enjoy vast sense pleasure, very refined sense pleasure there. But in due course of time, Kshina, you have to fall down from Svarga to Marcha Lokam, to the planets of death. So on the heavenly planets you live an incredibly long time, and there's basically no misery at all. There's only enjoyment, but when it's like a bank account, when your punya, when your pious credits are exhausted, when they're used up, you have to fall down again. So Like in a bank account, you have so much money, you withdraw all the time, and you enjoy, you buy this, you buy that. Due course of time, the bank account is finished, and then you can't enjoy anymore. So the same with the Svargaloka. So, karma is taistai rita jnana. Krishna explains also in the Gita that rita jnana, those who worship the demigods, who aspire for all these different material opulences, strength, beauty, knowledge, whatever, they have rita jnana. Their jnana, their knowledge is rita. It's very poor. And Prabhupada translates that as men of poor intelligence. So worshipping the devas may seem very wonderful. Like people in this Western society, they do not have any knowledge of how to actually fulfill one's material desires. But the Vedas are filled with knowledge how you can obtain the fulfillment of your material desires and at the same time elevate yourself to a higher destination next lifetime. So in this Western society and most part of the world, including the major part of India today, they have given up this knowledge. Krishna explains in the 16th chapter about the divine and demoniac qualities. Yashastra, how is it? Yashastra vidim utsrijya vartate kamakarataha. So Shastra Vidi, we know Vaidhi Bhakti Vidi, rules and regulations you have to follow. So the rules and regulations of the Shastra Vidi, Utsritya, that's all baffled. If they do not follow those rules and regulations and give them up, Kama Karata, it's an act whimsically. Kama, lust, material lust, if it simply goes after the whims, oh my tongue want this, my other senses want that, they simply act on that platform, which is for most of the world today. And if they do not follow the vidya of the Shastras, the rules and regulations, the do and don'ts of the Vedas or the religious scriptures, if they don't do that, they will fall down. Na siddhim, how is that? Na yashastra vidimutri ya vartate kamakarataha na siddhim avabnoti na sukham na param gatim. Na siddhi, they will not attain any perfection if they discard the rules and regulations and simply act on the basis of the senses. No perfection. Na sukham, no happiness is there if you act outside of the scriptures and simply follow, whatever dictations your senses put in front of you. Na param gatim, and gati means the goal, the destination, param the highest, and they will not attain the highest destination. So one has to follow scriptural injunctions, whether it's the Vedas or any other religious scriptures. That's a part of civilized human life. So it's very unfortunate to not follow them. But again, so much material knowledge is given there in the in the scriptures, but as Prabhupada states here, the goal of life is not to fulfill the material sense desires. It is to obtain Atma Gyan, knowledge of the self, and ultimately become reinstated in the Jiva's original position, which is to serve the Supreme Lord. We also know there's the four principles of civilized life, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which is to follow Dharma, scriptural injunctions, Artha, then you attain economic development, and then Kama, material sense gratification, and ultimately Moksha, which is liberation. That's also what the Jnana Karma section of Vedas is mainly for, impersonal liberation. So the soul can obtain that position too, but the ultimate goal, of course, is to become reinstated in an active relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that's the purpose, the ultimate end. Vidaista sarvaya aham eva vedya vedanta krit veda eva chaham. The ultimate goal of the Vedas is to engage in the service of the Lord. So maybe there's some questions or comments.
Could you explain what is Upasana?
That's a good question, and it's something I want to study more because it's not complete. Sometimes it's explained that it's engaging in devotional service, but it's also other places explained it's also worship of the devas. So how that goes in, so it's worship, whether worship on the material platform, worship of higher material living entities like the devas, they are still within the material world, and the worship of Krishna. So any kind of worship, that's one understanding I've seen. Even though, Kamsahanta is also dealing with, as far as I understand, worship of the devas. So it's not completely clear to me, but I've heard both versions. So any type of worship actually is part of the Upasana Kanda. Jnana Kanda, of course, we know it's jnana with philosophical speculation and that. So I need to study that a bit more. It's a bit unclear. Any other questions, comments?
Very nice lecture.
Thank you.
So the sages that are inquiring, they want the absolute truth, they want Bhagavatam. And of course we are following in their footsteps. So how do we help ourselves not to deviate from that very purpose?
Well, one important thing, we know there's 5 principles, the most powerful principles, angas of devotional life. One of them is satsanga, association with devotees. So that's so important because when you're in the association of devotees, good devotees, there's very little chance of falling down. It's there, but it's less, because good association elevates you. But if you're on your own, it's much more risky. It's easier to fall down because nobody checks you. There's a kind of good social pressure in being with the right people. But if we're alone, we can do whatever we want, and then the tendency is to maybe, not get up in the early morning because nobody's there to kind of, help you. But if you're with other devotees and there's a regular morning program, it's there, and it's kind of, you want to be part of it. So that's the positive social pressure. Social pressure is not only bad. It can be bad, but it can also be good. So like when devotees are there every morning and there's for Mangalarti, they're there, it's much more easy to get up because it's actually nice. Mangalarti is so wonderful to worship the Lord at this part of the day. So you get into a good habit by good association. Also, and it's easier to kick out bad habits. Someone may refrain from devotee association because they got certain attachments. And it's something is very attached habit for many years, whatever it may be, of something not conducive for spiritual life. Some kind of addiction to whatever it may be. A gross addiction or very severe or maybe minor, but still addiction and preventing you from spiritual upliftment. But if you're with devotees, it's much easier to kick that habit. So that's one of the things, of course, and follow the other principles of spiritual life. When you're strong in your sadhana, every day you chant, you get up early, you worship the Lord, Mangalarti, and you chant 16 rounds strictly, preferably in the morning, no other action, just it's you and the holy name. Krishna is there in the holy name. And when you're kind of conscious, Krishna is here, I have to give all the attention and not think about what I have to do during the day or what she said or he did or whatever. Kick it all out. It's only the Maha Mantra. Then you get so much strength. And then you get the higher taste. And we know that by the higher taste, you can become fixed in devotional life and kick out the lower things. Okay. So satsanga is very important.
Bharat Maharaj, he was in Baba, right?
Yeah.
But because he had no association, he fell down from that platform.
Yeah, he was alone. So there's examples, but in general it's more recommended to be with us, especially this day and age. Like Bharat Maharaj was a different age, and he was of a completely different caliber as a living entity. Us as Kali Yuga products, we basically, all of us, we need this association.
But so much more, right? Even he was on such a high level, because he had no Sangha,
Yes.
he fell down.
Yes. He was practically on the level of pure love of Godhead, almost. So, yeah, very important with devotee association. So many devotees are here, in both in Denmark and other places. They are living by themselves. And they may have a nice material situation. I spoke with one of our good friends the other day, and he has got very good material situation. He is also obligated by different commitments with other people. So it's difficult to give up, but still, that if you have a good material situation, it may be, I'm kind of nicely situated, but what's the price? How much advancement are you making? Being by yourself. So you can say there's a price to pay. Yeah, there's good and bad in every circumstance. But if you gain so much more spiritually by giving up a little of your material comfort, what's best? What's your goal in life? And we're all getting older, right? So many Danish devotees here are getting quite senior, approaching old age. And, at one point, when are we going to get really serious and make great advancement? How are you going to do that by yourself? Falling into, the trap of watching a movie here and eating that there and watching whatever football World Cup is going on now, and some may sit and watch that, whatever. But if you're with the other devotees, you simply lose the taste. It becomes so much easier to engage in spiritual practices. And all those tastes for the lower things, they disappear much easier. We know we've been living in the ashram, right? And it wasn't difficult. We had good association, and it was easy getting up every morning and engaging in different devotional activities in the company of our friends, of the devotees. So much, it's really important with sadhu sangha. Any other comment or question? Thank you for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.